Okay, so we got to talk about this. Look, getting the spark of emotion is important. It's a skill set to be able to get a spark of emotion, which is going to, in many cases, people will understand getting the spark as being something where you've got to get that final pinch in that very last second, and then you're going to burst into the acting scene with all of this emotion. That's great. That will work. There's some things that will work really well for, and there's a lot more things that won't exactly fit into the project. So the thing to do about this is you want to look at this where you want to work with emotion. Emotion is going to be a thing that is in the future. We're not going to have a choice of whether we're working with emotion or not. Whether if we're not working with emotion or whether we are working with emotion is going to be not a decision. We are going to have no choice than to work with emotion. We've got all sorts of different changes in the industry, and the only way forward is to be able to learn emotion. Look, I'm Simon Blake. I've written over 6 acting books, 8,000 acting classes, emotionalpreparation.com. There's a community, all that stuff. So look, the thing about this is you're not only looking to get that spark of emotion. This is where people go into what is a fleeting. Typically, it happens about right here in the chest. When I have studied so many people doing the emotional preparation processes, I like to call emotional activation, because you've got to activate that emotion. Typically right here, the feeling center kind of goes in, they go in, and all of a sudden they hit a feeling when they're doing their preparation. The feeling kind of sparks off, and then they go, oh, well, great. They know that wasn't their logic that sparked, that they thought at that moment that was when they sparked an emotion, or that's when they sparked something for their work, their feeling. But that's just the tip of their feeling area within their body cavity. So like literally they spark themselves. They've got past their logic. They've got past their stuff. They've worked hard to be able to activate something. But then that spark gets into the acting scene, and then you've got your spark, and then the other person might have a spark, or they have a circumstance already going on. And then by the time you're into the acting interaction, even the first 30, 40 seconds into the acting scene, your spark isn't there anymore. And then you wonder, well, you haven't, you did your emotional preparation. We worked hard. See, we're interested in making sure that we're able to figure out ways for ourselves, our acting technique, our ability to do acting. Now, acting's also for music, guys. It's going to happen. And it's essential for music as well as acting. Okay, it is incredible how many times we must work to be able to adjust ourselves as we go through different things. Some emotions, some emotions will involve us to use and develop acting technique, or technique to be emotion technique. The emotion technique is something that will happen where you'll need to use a different process for some emotions than other emotions. So this is part of the reason why when you look at the quintessential techniques and you say, well, why doesn't one technique work for every emotion? It just doesn't. I've tested over and over and over all kinds of stuff, and I know it doesn't. Plus, what I've all kinds of different things. Believe me, it's very important. We're doing two things when we spark an emotion. We are working to be able to find, one, the spontaneity. The spontaneity usually comes a little bit higher. The spontaneity up here, and the feeling is down about there, that area. So it's like now I can pinpoint and stop film production, like I can freeze frame literally when I start to see this within productions just as well as I can with theater productions. So it's incredibly important. We're doing two different things. We're looking to spark the emotion. We want the emotion to get into the interaction. The interaction is going to be having to allow us to be able to receive something for it to be interactive. It has to be both an ebb and a flow. So we're not only able and not working to only get the spark of our own impulse into our acting. We don't want to have an impulse and then say maybe it's the wrong timing within the acting scene, or the other actor has their own impulse, and then we don't have our impulse expressed. We want to be able to have an activated impulse, an activated feeling, an activated emotion, and a cavity within ourselves of which we know that we're going to have that space within ourselves, that we're going to be able to have that ebb and flow. See the difference? The difference is that we're not just working to be able to do and acting on cue in a way that people are expecting us to be able to have over gushing amount of action. We're looking at the ability to know that that action's within us. We know where that spark is, but even when we receive our acting partner, that response is still going to be active within ourselves. That response is then going to be activated in a way that if it comes out in that very first moment, or if that emotion comes out 5 or 8 lines later, it's still going to be effective. And that usually is what, I mean, typically the students would take about 2 years to learn that. But I've never heard anybody explain what I just explained. So therefore, you don't need to wait the 2 years to be able to learn that lesson. You don't have to wait and see, well, other people would there'd be a maturity level that sometimes the people who stuck it out long enough would be able to develop pieces of this, but you don't need to be able to be in a place where you're blocked in that way. You can literally work with this in a way that sparks and activates the emotion. You can understand that this spark has to have a cavity. You have to have an ability to receive the other person. You have to have the space to receive the other person in. And then the spontaneity, what will happen is that the spontaneity with yourself and the other will actually happen together, which is an incredibly different scene. See, now all of a sudden you've got your spontaneity and their spontaneity, and now you've got that interchanging. That's when the acting scenes will carry more emotional weight. This would also work with deep emotions. So develop this acting technique for yourself. Let me know about it. It's rather an important topic, and thanks very much.